Well, let's just bring out Tony Hsieh and Susan Lyne, please. I'm feeling very distant. So our subject matter is managing hypergrowth. I want to start, though, with the classic dog food question, and I'll start with you, Susan. Yeah. What are you wearing that you've purchased at Gilt Groupe?
Well, it's a rare day that I'm not wearing something from Gilt. Today, my shirt.
Can you, give us some details? What is it? What kind of deal did you get on it? What time of day did you buy it? I want you to give the user experience to the audience.
It's an Italian brand, very good one. We promise discretion to our brand partners. And I bought it. I rarely get to go on the site except to monitor at noon. I don't get to really shop at noon. So I think I probably bought this mid to late afternoon.
Okay. Tony?
I am wearing Donald J. Pliner shoes. And I chose them because there's no laces, and it's easy to take them on and off through airport security.
All right, excellent. So what we have are, you two have a lot of similarities. Your companies have a lot of similarities. Rapid growth. You're both in retailing. You're both in fashion. One of you is still independent. The other isn't. Why don't we start with you, Tony? You wrote and by the way, something else you two have in common is that you both are writers. You started on the talent side of the journalism business, Susan, and you're an author, and you write a darn good memo as well. And your memo, 1 year after Amazon acquired Zappos, I thought was excellent because you went chapter and verse and said, here's what we said we were going to do, and here's how it worked out. At a high level, Tony, what's been the impact of Amazon owning Zappos?
Yeah, so just to give some background for people who may not know, Amazon acquired Zappos just over a year ago. And it's actually very different from most acquisitions that Amazon has done. And most of their other acquisitions, the plan is to integrate the company being acquired into Amazon, and then over time the company being acquired kind of loses its identity and joins the mothership. Whereas for us, as a precondition for even considering exploring the deal, we told them we would only do it if we could remain independent and can continue to grow the Zappos brand, culture, and our way of doing business our way. And it's been a year, and it's been over a year, and happy to say they've remained true to their word. We basically, from our point of view, it's as if we swapped out our board of directors with a new one, and instead of flying to San Francisco once a quarter for a board meeting, because we're based in Vegas, we fly to Seattle once a quarter for the equivalent of a board meeting. And so it's
Are you saying you literally go to Seattle 4 times a year and no more?
For these board meetings, yeah. And if you come to our offices, there's no sign of Amazon around, just like before. And I literally see Jeff Bezos in a board meeting type of context for 2 hours once a quarter.
And so you've said the things that people typically say about why you sold at all. It gives you access to greater resources, their expertise. But can you just sort of, a year later, just defend that a little more? You didn't have any problem having access to capital. You didn't have any problem having access to technology. Amazon, for example, would have been happy to sell you whatever technology you wanted, and so would others. So I still don't get what the benefit is of being part of Amazon and yet not being part of Amazon.
Yeah, for us, it really just came down to, we have a long-term vision for the company, and we want to grow. So we looked at different paths of what will actually get us there faster. And actually, we do have a lot more financial flexibility now, just because relative to Amazon, Zappos is still pretty small. We're doing over $1 billion a year in gross merchandise sales, but that's still a small number compared to their revenues. And already there's been cases where there were certain things that we weren't able to do previously that we are able to do now that's actually better for the company in the long run and better for the customer experience. So,
like what?
So for example, back prior to Amazon, when customers returned shoes, just because of how the whole cash flow situation worked, it took us something like up to 10 days to refund their credit card and and that's ideally, and we would love to have cut that time shorter, but just for cash flow reasons, it didn't work out from a financial perspective. And so under Amazon, we actually went up to them during one of these equivalent of a board meetings, and we told them we actually would like to cut that down to, I forget the exact number, I think we wound up at 5 days or something. And it's going to be a big hit cash flow-wise from Zappos' perspective, but we think it's the right thing to do for the customer and the company in the long term. And I actually went in, and the other people from Zappos went into this meeting expecting we'd have to sell this and justify it, and kind of the response in the meeting was, oh yeah, like obviously that's what you should do, and next topic. And we were bracing ourselves to have to defend it. And so I think part of the difference is Amazon, like Zappos, they're very long-term thinkers. They're thinking about what's best for the company 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and that's just a slightly different time horizon than, say, a VC investor that has other obligations to meet.
It's interesting. I think Dell used to brag at how long they held on to their customers' money as being very appealing to investors. You're bragging about what a short period of time you hold on to your customers' money. Excellent.
Awkward silence.
So, no, not for me. But so, Susan, it has been widely reported that Gilt did about $170 million of revenue in 2009, and a couple months ago it was widely reported the figure $400 to $500 million in 2010. Are you still on track to do that?
Yep.
So why don't you grab the mantle of the title of the session and explain some of the things that you're doing to manage what is very real hypergrowth.
Yeah. Well, so it takes every possible form. We have to hire really quickly. We are always trying to find more engineers. We have a complex business because our traffic comes in a massive wave at noon. So watching what happens at 11:59 when everybody knows the sales are about to begin. At noon, we start serving thousands of pages a second, and that's very complicated business. So scaling our technology, finding email providers who can deliver millions of emails within a 15-minute time frame, because we have unhappy members if their email reminder arrives after the sales begin. All of those things are complex. There are all the obvious pieces of the same issues every hypergrowth company goes through, of just staying ahead of your customer demand. Layered on top of that are these very specific, unique issues we deal with because of the nature of our business model.
Listening to you describe it, it sounds like you have this, it's a very inefficient process. It's almost like an electric utility that has to be prepared to deliver to people on the hottest day of the year so that they can keep their homes air conditioned, right?
Right. So obviously you do not build a platform that is always at that level, but one that can expand and then retract as needed. Now,
I think there's two very high-level challenges that Gilt has in terms of maintaining its growth. One is the fact that you have a new concept going that's very exciting, but sort of the less kind way of saying very exciting is faddish, number one. And number two, you have a lot of competitors. Your success has attracted a horde of competitors. So would you take on first the fad issue and second the competitive issue?
The fad issue, I think, is that's only an issue if you think that's all we're ever going to do, right? And the way I look at this is that Gilt is part of a new wave of e-commerce. E-commerce had very little real innovation for many years. It was sort of the dog of the internet. And it was only in the last 2-3 years that you've seen really new, innovative models that have gotten people excited about shopping online. It was always convenient. There were lots of good things about it. But I'm still incredibly surprised that there's not more innovation in the way sales are presented online. You can look at 100 e-commerce websites, and 95 of them are going to look pretty much the same. So I think there's a huge amount that can be done going forward, and we just keep playing with what the next piece of this is. And I think there's a big runway out there.
Right. Who knew 10 years ago that why weren't we doing flash sales, in other words, right?
There's that, but you know, it's also about new sales every day, which get people to come back on a regular basis. Most e-commerce is all about, you know, perpetual inventory. They change the store out every spring, every fall, but you know, we change the store out every single day. It's a well-edited assortment, so it's quick. You know, you can come in, you can scan it, you can take your 10-minute break from work, and you can buy something, and then you can go back. It's visual shopping. It's not about filtering and searching. It's about visual shopping, where you go in and your eye lights on something, and you get excited and you go. And it's also competitive, which, you know, there's a gaming element to it, and that makes it fun.
So take on the competitive issue from the business perspective. There's really two issues here, isn't there? There's competition in the sense that customers have other sites where they can do similar kinds of shopping as they're doing at Gilt, but also your suppliers can play you off against one another.
Right, and I'm also actually talking about a very different form of competition.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah. You're saying that the customers enjoy buying on Gilt because it has game-like qualities to it, and I get that.
Yeah.
I win when I get my thing. Yeah.
Precisely. But that's always going to be the case. You know, if a business model works, you're going to have competition. There's just no two ways about it. If we didn't have competition, it would be odd. We try to really just look at our business and our customer, and how do we serve them in more areas of their lives. So we started with women's apparel and accessories. That was working like gangbusters. We opened a men's store. We've got home now. We've got kids and baby. A year ago, we launched jetsetter.com, which is really vacations, and it's doing incredibly well. And most recently launched high-end local services and experiences, events, many of which we actually create for our members. So we're really looking at what will excite them. We've got a couple of others that we're cooking on right now. And we're starting to experiment with more and more full price, too.
So you're it sounds like you're saying that for Gilt, the core shopping site, the core flash sale activity is to Gilt what books are to Amazon.
Could very well be.
So sort of the cup half full thing would be you're diversifying, that's good. The cup half empty way would say, well, those things aren't as exciting or as lucrative as where Gilt got started. You're going to choose the cup half full, I know, but
yeah, and honestly, I think that more and more of commerce is moving online. So we want to be part of that wave, and we want to be better at it than anybody else.
So let's talk about headcount and hiring. Because you raised it, Susan. I want to start with you, Tony. You've actually increased headcount since the Amazon acquisition.
Oh yeah, we've grown a lot over the past year, and in fact, our Q1 net sales this year were actually up almost 50% year over year, and so we're just putting together our plan for 2011, and we're planning on hiring about 2,000 employees. And so right now we have, I think the number's around 2,800 employees. So a lot of headcount growth.
I'm no good at math, but you're saying you're going to add 70% headcount or something like that?
No, well, it includes we're going to hire 2,000, but there's also attrition and so on.
And so two things: what kind of people are you hiring, and have you started to experience as a manager that it gets more difficult to hire the right people? You've had some quirky hiring habits all along. Maybe you could talk about that. Are you still paying people $2,000 to quit?
Yes, although we're increasing that to $3,000. I'll give some background for people that don't know. Everyone that we hire, we're based out of Las Vegas. We do 2 sets of interviews. The hiring manager and his or her team will interview for the standard stuff, fit within the team, relevant experience, technical ability, and so on. But then our HR department does a second set of interviews purely for culture fit. And we formalize the definition of our culture into 10 core values. And so you have to pass both in order to be hired. So we make a conscious decision to, in a lot of cases, sacrifice the short or medium-term benefits, and we'll pass on people that we know can make an immediate impact on our top or bottom line. But if they're not good for our culture, we won't hire them. It's not even a question. And the reverse is true, too. Even if someone is doing their job function perfectly fine, even if they're a superstar in their specific job function, if they're bad for the culture, we'll fire them just for that reason alone. And for most companies, as they get bigger, the company culture goes downhill, and that's what happened at my previous company at Link Exchange. And so we wanted to make sure that not only does that not happen, but we actually want this culture to scale and get stronger and stronger as we grow. And so a lot of that is in the hiring process. Our performance reviews are 50% based on whether you're living or inspiring the Zappos core values in others. Everyone that's hired goes through the same 4-week training program as our call center rep, regardless of position. And that's where, at the end of the first week, we offer everyone in the class $2,000 to quit and leave the company, and then we increase that to $3,000. Because we don't want employees that are there just for a paycheck. We want employees that really believe in the long-term vision of the company and really feel like this is the right company culture for them, that our corporate core values match their own personal values.
How many people have taken up the offer since you offered it?
We've been doing it for a few years now, and every year about 2 or 3% of people end up taking the offer. So the offer actually started out at $100, and we keep increasing it because we feel like not enough people are taking the offer. So.
You wanted, Susan, you wanted to ask?
You should talk about your orientation process, too, because I think it's more involved and really impressive than any other company I know.
Yeah, well, so everyone that's hired in our Vegas office, accountant, lawyer, software developer, goes through the first 4-week training program as our call center reps, and we go over company history, the importance of company culture, our philosophy about customer service, and then you're actually on the phone taking real calls from real customers. And the reason why we have everyone go through that process is because if we're serious about building the Zappos brand to be about the very best customer service and customer experience, then customer service shouldn't just be a department, it should be the entire company. And the other great thing about that is during our busy Q4 holiday season, which we're just starting to get into now, people from all different departments can and do hop on the phones to help handle the extra volume. And that means we don't need to hire temps that may not deliver the same level of service, and we don't need to worry about temps that coming in that may not be good for our culture.
So do you send everyone to the warehouse as well to learn how to pick?
Yeah, and that's actually later on. We'll send you to Kentucky for a week, picking, packing, shipping, receiving, and so on. And so that also helps everyone gain, I think, a better perspective of just how hard the warehouse work actually is.
Have you asked the question, do you hit a point in size where some of the elements of your hiring practice or your culture just become untenable? So I'll give you an example. We know anecdotally that Google has stopped hiring only, valedictorians from Harvard along the way because it became impractical over a certain size. Have you asked that question?
Well, I guess we're not. Our whole thing, in that example, that's more about hiring for experience and skills, whereas our belief, our attitude is more, let's hire for attitude and values. And then most of the other stuff we can teach and train over time. And our long-term vision is actually have the vast, vast majority of our hires be entry-level, but provide them all the mentorship and training so they can become a senior leader within the company within 5 to 7 years. And that provides a growth path for them, and then also helps protect our culture, because coming in entry-level, you can do a lot less damage to the culture than making the wrong hire at a senior level. So I think part of it is also we've gotten lucky in we made the Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For list last 2 years, and so that's resulted in a lot of applicants for us. Last year we had 25,000 applications. We only hired 250, so 1%. I think the stat was it's harder to get into Zappos than Harvard. So,
though it's interesting, you won't be eligible. Thanks for the plug, by the way, for the Fortune list, but you won't be eligible for it anymore, being a subsidiary.
I think we've actually we've talked to whoever's in charge of that process, and it's a little unclear right now. It just depends on whether how independently we're functioning, and so
Interesting.
There's a process for them to
that would be news to me. So I'm interested in learning what you learned. So Susan, it's funny you mentioned a moment ago engineers being a big goal, and I would have thought that you need more and better people with merchandising experience.
You need both, but it's easier to hire great merchants right now than it is to hire great engineers, just because there's a lot of activity around New York right now, very different from even 2 years ago. A lot of options, and also as you get bigger, a lot of engineers want to work for startups. So we're now over 500 people. One of the things we've done is that as we launched JetSetter and Gilt City, we really set them up almost as mini companies within our company, so that there was a startup mentality, and they've got their own teams, their own engineering teams, product teams, customer service. Literally, they've got their own full core of people that are just dedicated to those businesses, and they operate more like startups within Gilt.
People outside of Silicon Valley seem to like the following line of questioning a lot, which is it difficult getting engineering talent in New York and Las Vegas and elsewhere? First to you, Susan.
I think there are great engineers there, but there's a lot of people recruiting for them.
So it is difficult.
Yeah.
It is in Vegas as well. A lot of our engineers are relocated from other cities.
So let's take on the subject of management and culture at the very top. Susan, you swapped jobs a couple months ago now with Kevin Ryan, and you said it was because you wanted to be able to focus at a higher level. What was the real reason?
So as the company got bigger, I found myself more and more in the weeds on our business, and that's clearly not the reason I was brought into this company. I'm a good operator, but there's a lot of people who can probably operate better than I can. I'm a really good idea person, and I'm good at getting things off the ground and bringing different components together. So as we started looking at what we were going to have to do next, really everything that I had said I thought we should do when I came into the company, we had done. And now we're going to have to really think about the next generation of businesses and where we evolve to. And Kevin and I talked a lot about it over summer, and actually we did the trade over a long dinner one night. And then we told people a couple of weeks later.
And
so we'll see. We are still feeling our way through it. There are still some parts of my old job that I kept. But it's working well. Kevin and I have partnered pretty much from the start on this. He had a couple other businesses he had launched not too soon before Gilt, and so he was pulled away more than maybe he would have liked to. But he's been very much a part of this company from the beginning, and so this was not that big a change.
What's an example of something that he's already doing as CEO that was different from what you did as CEO?
That's a good question. Kevin moves really fast, and he makes decisions quickly, and so I think you'll see a couple of things announced in the next 2-3 weeks that we had been mulling and we had been, weighing, that he just said, let's do it.
Can you give us a preview on any of that? The category? Is it a new category or
could be?
Could be a new category.
Yeah.
Could be a new business line, model.
Could be.
Not going to say, are you? The Gilt also has an interesting founding story I don't. Well, even a founding myth, and Kevin founded the company, right? But he brought on two people who, and sort of let it be understood that they were the founders, even though he was. Is that an example of good startup storytelling to capture people's imaginations?
No, I think it's really about how you define founder, and now I think they define themselves all as being founders. It was Kevin's idea to start Gilt, no question about that. And he did find Alexis Maybank, who was the first CEO. But Alexis and Alexandra launched this business. They made all the key decisions at the start about what it would look like and who the target customers would be. So I think it was very fair to be talking about them as founders. It just didn't tell the whole story.
And storytelling has been a very important part of, I would argue, an important part of Zappos' growth as well, Tony. Would you talk about how you see, what the importance of storytelling is to you in terms of building a business? You're on a book tour right now and your bus is parked outside. This is the point where you can hold up your book, which is a New York Times bestseller and all that.
Yeah, so the name of the book is Delivering Happiness, and we've actually arranged for everyone here in the audience to get a free copy. Been on this 23-city cross-country bus tour. We started out in August and are wrapping up actually Thanksgiving. And so we got this 50-foot bus that used to be owned by, I think, the bass player of the Dave Matthews Band, and wrapped it, happified it, changed the inside and outside.
You said happified it.
Happified it. And then, yeah, so you check it out. We're giving tours all day here at Web 2.0. It's right outside on the side of the hotel on Jesse. And you can pick up your copy of the book there as well. And so it's actually been a pretty interesting tour. And going into the tour, we thought, okay, it'll be interesting to learn from different businesses and entrepreneurs about how the book may have affected them and help spread this whole idea of happiness as a business model, making customers happy, making employees happy to other companies. And we also stopped by a number of different organizations along the way, including Gilt, and so that was interesting. But what really surprised us about the tour is all the non-businesses that are getting something out of the book and trying to change their culture. We've heard from the Boston Children's Hospital, for example. We stopped by there, and the book is required reading in high schools and colleges, and so we've spoken to students there and heard from museums and even sororities that want to change their culture. So it's just kind of crazy how it's just all these unanticipated things that are happening from the book. And so the book and the bus tour are actually meant more just as a launching point. And the website, if you go to deliveringhappinessbook.com, there's a section called Join the Movement, and we're already getting stories from all these different organizations and posting them there. But the idea is after the book tour is over to really develop that website and help basically start this movement of having happiness as a business model or organizational principle.
But here's what I'm trying to learn from you. You had no experience in consumer products before founding Zappos, right? Your previous company was...
Yeah, well, I'm not the founder of Zappos.
Oh, right, you're not. Excuse me.
And under any definition. Yeah, so Nick founded Zappos, and I got involved about 2 months afterwards. This was back in '99, originally as an advisor and investor, and then just over the course of a year got sucked into that. But I guess for me, I've always just really just in my day-to-day life always been frustrated by customer service. And so for me, I've never been a shoe guy. I used to wear a pair of shoes for 2 years until there were holes in it, and then go buy the exact same pair of shoes again. Now I have 3 pairs of shoes. So
come on.
It's a 300% improvement.
Come on, I don't believe you. 3 pairs of shoes?
Yeah, basically I have these for dress shoes, and then I usually wear Asics for my regular just walking shoes, and then Ugg boots or not boots, but slippers during the winter to keep.
You don't own a pair of flip-flops?
I guess I do own a pair of flip-flops. 4. I lied 4.
All right, but first through your blog, and then really through Twitter, and now your book, you've very effectively used PR as a form of marketing for Zappos. And what I'm trying to learn from you is, was this learned, or was it innate, or did someone teach it to you?
Well, I think the thing is we actually don't really do much outbound PR. Most of our PR, like we have a PR firm, but most of it is responding to interviews and so on. And our whole philosophy is actually, let's take most of the money we would have spent on paid advertising, paid marketing, instead invest into customer service and customer experience, and then let our customers do the marketing for us through word of mouth. And we think about how do we elicit more positive emotions from our customers? How do we wow our customers? How do we get them to want to tell stories about us because they had such an amazing experience? And how do we create more memories for them? And yeah, at the end of the day, we think of ourselves more as being in the stories and memories business, not in the shoe business. And all the PR stuff is just kind of a natural byproduct of that, because yes, well, every day we have literally thousands and thousands of contacts with our customers. Most of it is through the telephone, also live chat and email, and all of those are branding opportunities for us to really brand ourselves to be about the very best customer service. And when we view, for example, telephone calls through a branding lens instead of an expense minimization lens or instead of a revenue generation lens, through a branding lens, it means we shouldn't be upselling, so we don't. It means that if someone calls and is looking for a pair of shoes and we're out of stock of size, to brand ourselves to be about the very best customer service in that situation, we direct customers to competitors. And obviously we're going to lose that transaction, but we're not trying to maximize for every single transaction. We're trying to build lifelong relationships with our customers and brand ourselves to be about the very best service.
Well, and what I think is interesting about your story is that when you were private, you were able to honestly say, we're not going to talk about profits with you because it's none of your business, and we're managing the business for the long haul. And it's no hype to say you got acquired by a company that has a real long-standing reputation for, damn the torpedoes, we're thinking for the long haul in Amazon.
Yeah, so we're actually, we have different philosophies about how to deliver great service, but Amazon, I think they publicly state it's more about, their customer experience is about convenience, selection, and low prices. And for us, we don't compete on price. We really just want customers to buy from us for the service and selection. But in the end, it's all about what's best for our customers. And as it turns out, there's actually surprisingly not as much overlap between Amazon and Zappos customers as you might think.
And Susan, Gilt has very successfully used this notion of exclusivity as a founding principle and as a growth driver. How long can that always be the case?
Well, I think there's a lot more we can do with it, and I do think that the idea of membership on some level is a great thing. We've got a core membership base that are members of Gilt, but we've also got a lot of people who are just members of Jet Setter, and we've got people who are just members of Gilt City. And we'll see how that keeps evolving. But people like to feel like they are part of something, that they are in the know, and that membership has its value, as MX would say.
I think I was going to say membership has its privileges. Right?
Privileges, yes.
Could we just get a quick show of hands? How many people in the audience are members of some Gilt product? I am. Maybe, 50%? Not. Is there anything you want to do about that?
Well, I can certainly pass my cards out, and I can give you an easy way to become members. It's just www.gilt.com/invite/Susan, and you can register right away, just for this group.
It's that /Susan that I love. I did that after our conference in Aspen. And we're going to take questions in a moment if people want to come up to the microphone. Similar question, how many people in the room have purchased a pair of shoes at Zappos ever? A similar number, right?
It's the other half.
The other half, right? Okay, please identify yourself when you ask your question. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Not yet.
Hi, it's Bob Peck, Barron Capital. Susan, could you talk a little bit about your profitability or what you sort of see as your road to profitability? And as you think about the competitors popping up around you, whether it's Rue, Outlook, Vent Privé, et cetera, what are the top 2 or 3 competitive advantages you really think Gilt has over those players as they try and gain share and get more of your supplier's inventory?
Yep. So we look at our business as a set of businesses. So our core business, which I would describe as women's, men's, home, kids and baby, will be profitable in our Q3, which is the first quarter of next year. And the company as a whole should be profitable this year, this fiscal year. That said, that's not what our goal is right now. Our goal is to make sure that we keep growing at a strong rate, and that at the same time we are showing that our business model works, which means the older pieces of our business become profitable, and you can see a path to profitability for the new ones. That's the way we look at it. It's one of the reasons we're still a private company, is it gives us a lot of flexibility to keep growing our business in the way we think will deliver the most long-term value. And on your second question, I think that there are multiple things. I think that our vendor relationships are key, and we still have the strongest vendor relationships, the largest vendor relationships, and we pretty much own the high end of the market.
And the obvious follow-up, Susan, is when do you think the IPO will be?
I just know it won't be in the next year.
Will not be in the next year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So in addition to that, we have an incredibly strong membership group, and when you think about it, most people don't want to have 12 emails coming in every day. You may accept 3, 2, 4, but it's going to become increasingly hard, I think, to really distinguish yourself in this membership model that depends on email to get people to the site every day. And so I think that we've got a big lead there. We've got very, very strong response and click-through. And we have an enormously engaged membership that loves all the stuff we do. So I worry far less about people who are trying to do what we're doing. I look at the people who are coming up with new ideas. So really interesting watching what Groupon's done, and there will be others. You know, as I said, this is really the third inning maybe of where e-commerce is likely to go over the next 3, 4, 5 years. I think there's huge opportunity there, and it's only beginning.
I apologize. I got the hook, and I can't have any more questions. But I do need to. I want to wrap things up by asking you to tell everybody, Tony. You said that when you did the acquisition with Amazon, and when Amazon did the acquisition of Zappos, you were asked the question: would Amazon employees get the Zappos employee discount? And your answer was not unless they baked us cookies. Can you just give an update on how that went?
So we actually did receive some cookies from some Amazon employees, but it's I mean, it goes back to the whole principle of Amazon has its own benefits for their employees that we don't have access to, because it just goes back to the principle of really being independent, and it works in both directions. And it's been over a year now, and they've remained true to their word.
Tony and Susan, thank you.
Thank you.